Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to be tackling the world of startups.
Ooh, exciting.
You know, those ventures trying to revolutionize industries and maybe even change the world?
Yeah,
Sure.
sure.
We got excerpts from this university course on startup creation.
Okay.
Think of it as like your cheat sheet for navigating this exciting, and let's face it, sometimes risky landscape.
Yeah, definitely risky.
So we're going to unpack what makes a startup successful.
Okay.
And just as importantly, why some just,
Don't make it.
don't make it.
Exactly.
Yeah, a lot of failures out there.
A lot of failures, yeah. So this course document dives right into the heart of it,
Okay.
starting with what determines startup success.
Right.
It all begins with the founders themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And it's more than just having a brilliant idea,
Oh, for sure. For sure.
wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. The source really emphasizes this deep-seated motivation. It even specifically mentions founders driven by social and environmental issues.
Oh, and it's like their passion for solving these problems fuels their entire journey.
Yeah, it's that drive that keeps them going when things get tough,
For sure.
which they inevitably do.
Absolutely.
But passion alone isn't enough to get a startup off the ground.
Is it? No, definitely not. You also need the know-how.
Yeah.
The source is very clear on the importance of founder experience, the ability to transform problems into opportunities.
So it's one thing to have a great recipe, but it's another to actually know how to bake. Right?
Exactly.
You need that experience to bring a vision to life.
Precisely. And that brings us to another crucial element that the source highlights, market response.
Ooh.
It's about understanding who your target audience is and what they need.
Right.
I can't just build a product in a vacuum.
And this is where I feel like design thinking comes into play.
Yes.
This 5-stage process that's all about creating products that truly resonate with customers.
Yeah, it's about a deep understanding of the user's needs.
Mm-hmm.
You start with empathy, immersing yourself in your customer's world to truly understand their pain points.
So it's about walking into their shoes.
Exactly. Then you move to defining the problem clearly, followed by ideating potential solutions.
Mm-hmm.
Next comes prototyping, bringing those ideas to life in a tangible form.
I like that, prototyping.
Yeah.
Okay.
And finally, you test those prototypes with your target audience, gathering feedback to refine and improve your product.
It's interesting that they bring up this concept of co-creation.
Yeah.
It's almost like a partnership between the startup and their customers.
Yes. And that's reflected in the source's mention of the shift from the traditional 4 Ps of marketing, product, price, place, and promotion,
It's a force.
to the 4 Cs,
Thick.
customer, cost, convenience, and communication.
So instead of just pushing a product onto the market, it's about working with the customer to co-create something truly valuable.
Exactly.
You're building a relationship with your customer,
Yeah.
fostering a sense of ownership and loyalty. Okay, now let's flip the script a little bit
Okay.
and look at the reasons why startups fail.
Okay.
This is where I think things get really eye-opening.
Interesting.
Because according to this course document, the #1 reason is no market need.
It's almost counterintuitive, isn't it?
Yeah.
You'd think the biggest hurdle would be funding or competition, but the source makes a compelling case for why market need trumps all.
It's like that saying, you can't sell combs to bald men. No matter how innovative or well-designed your product is, if nobody wants it, you're doomed.
Yeah.
Doomed to fail.
Doomed to fail.
The document even gives this example of a founder who was so convinced of their product's originality that they neglected to do proper market research.
Oh.
They were so focused on building the what that they forgot to ask the who.
The who.
Who is this actually for?
Yeah.
And as you can imagine, that product launch was a complete disaster.
I can only imagine.
It's like a stark reminder that market validation is essential, even or perhaps especially when you're convinced you've got the next big thing.
Absolutely. You need to make sure there's a genuine demand for your product, not just a perceived need based on your own assumptions.
For sure. And of course, we can't talk about startup failure without addressing the issue of funding
Yeah.
or lack thereof.
Right. Money definitely matters. The source stresses the importance of careful financial planning, ensuring you have enough capital to cover your expenses and reach key milestones.
Right.
It mentions the concept of burn rate,
Yeah.
which is essentially how quickly a startup is spending its cash reserves.
So it's not just about raising a large sum of money. It's about managing those funds wisely.
Yes.
It's like planning a cross-country road trip.
Okay.
You need to budget for gas, food, and lodging.
Yeah.
Or you'll run out of money before reaching your destination.
And just like on that road trip, unexpected detours can arise in the startup world.
Oh, absolutely.
That's why having a financial buffer is essential.
It's about having enough runway to weather the inevitable storms.
For sure.
Speaking of which, the source also emphasizes the importance of having the right team.
Yes. This is a point that I think often gets overlooked.
Right.
Having a great idea and sufficient funding is important. But if you don't have a team that's aligned, motivated, and capable of executing that vision,
Yeah.
your startup is likely to flounder.
The source mentions the importance of having a diverse team with a mix of skills and experiences.
Yes.
But even more critical is shared enthusiasm and clearly defined roles.
Right. You need a team where everyone is rowing in the same direction.
Right.
And they need to know what seat they're in and how to pull their weight.
Otherwise, you'll end up going in circles.
There
right?
you go.
So we've got passionate founders with a great idea. They've done their market research, secured funding, and built a solid team.
Okay.
What could possibly go wrong?
Well, as the source points out, even with all those elements in place, poor marketing can be a startup's downfall. You need to effectively reach your target audience and communicate the value of your product.
It all comes back to understanding your customer, doesn't it?
It does.
It's about crafting the right message, choosing the appropriate marketing channels, and delivering that message in a way that resonates with your audience.
And it's an ongoing process. You need to constantly monitor your marketing efforts,
Right.
analyze the data, and make adjustments as needed.
You can't just set it and forget it.
No.
But even with a stellar marketing campaign, there's another factor that can derail a startup.
What's that?
Out.
Ah, yes. The source highlights the importance of work-life balance, especially in the high-pressure environment of a startup. It's easy to get caught up in the hustle and grind, working long hours and sacrificing personal time.
For sure.
But that's a recipe for disaster in the long run.
It's like running a marathon at full speed without ever taking a break. You'll burn out before reaching the finish line.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And
yes.
burnout not only impacts the founder's well-being, it can also negatively affect team morale and productivity.
So how do you prevent burnout in like a fast-paced startup environment?
The source suggests building a strong team that can share the workload and support each other.
Yeah.
It also stresses the importance of setting realistic goals and prioritizing tasks.
It's about working smarter, not just harder.
Right. And it's about taking breaks,
Okay.
recharging your batteries, and coming back to the task at hand with renewed energy and focus.
I like that.
Yeah.
Speaking of focus, the source also touches on the importance of being receptive to feedback.
Yes, this is a point that really resonated with me as well.
Yeah.
It's easy to get so attached to your idea, your product,
Right.
that you become resistant to feedback.
Yeah, I get that.
But the truth is, feedback is invaluable, even when it's critical.
The source even gives an example of founders who were hesitant to share their product for feedback.
No, really.
They feared criticism and rejection. But in doing so, they missed out on valuable insights that could have helped them improve their product.
Wow.
It's a reminder that feedback is a gift, even when it's difficult to hear.
Yes.
It allows you to see your product from different perspectives and identify areas for improvement.
Absolutely.
It's about being open to learning,
Yeah.
to growing, to constantly iterating and refining your product based on feedback from your target audience.
And speaking of timing, the source mentions how launching a product at the right time can be crucial for success.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
They use the term technology readiness.
Yeah.
What exactly does that mean?
It refers to the maturity of the technology that your product relies on.
Okay.
If you launch a product that depends on a cutting-edge technology that's not quite ready for prime time,
Right.
you're setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah.
It's like trying to build a skyscraper with materials that haven't been properly tested or aren't strong enough to support the structure.
I see. Yeah, good analogy. But on the flip side, waiting too long to launch can be equally detrimental.
Right.
The market might move on or competitors might beat you to the punch.
Exactly.
So it's about finding that sweet spot where the technology is mature enough,
Yeah.
the market is receptive, and your product is ready to shine.
Right.
So we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive into the world of startups.
We have. It's fascinating, isn't it?
It really is. We've explored the key factors that drive success, from passionate founders to a solid team,
Right.
a clear understanding of the market, and a well-executed marketing strategy.
For sure.
And we've also delved into some of the common pitfalls that can lead to failure, like neglecting market research,
Right.
mismanaging funds,
Yeah.
burning out, ignoring feedback, and mistiming the launch.
Absolutely.
But as we move into the next part of our deep dive, I'd like to shift the focus slightly.
Okay.
Let's talk about something that's often overlooked in discussions about startups.
What's that?
The role of luck.
Oh, that's interesting.
Luck. That's an interesting angle.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Well, as much as we like to believe that success is solely the result of hard work, talent, and strategic planning, there's no denying that luck can play a significant role in the startup world.
So you're saying that sometimes it's just about being in the right place at the right time.
To some extent, yes.
Okay.
But it's more nuanced than that.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing opportunities when they arise and being prepared to seize them.
It's about being open to serendipity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's about having the resilience to bounce back from setbacks because, let's face it, not every lucky break will lead to success.
So it's not just about luck. It's about how you respond to it.
Precisely.
It's about being adaptable, resourceful, and never giving up on your vision.
That's what it's all about.
This is getting really interesting.
Yeah.
I can't wait to dive deeper into the role of luck in startup success. Stay with us, listeners, as we continue our deep dive into the fascinating world of startups.
It only gets better from here. Welcome back to the deep dive. Before the break, we were talking about how even when you have a great team, solid funding, and a fantastic product, things can still go sideways.
Right, and you were about to drop some knowledge about how luck plays into all of this. It's not something you typically hear discussed in business courses.
It's true that luck often gets brushed aside, but I think it's an important piece of the puzzle. Now, I'm not saying you should just sit back and wait for a lucky break.
Right.
It's more about recognizing and capitalizing on opportunities when they present themselves.
So it's not just blind luck, but being prepared and knowing when to strike.
Exactly. Think of it as luck meeting preparedness. You might stumble upon an unexpected partnership or discover a new application for your technology, but you need to be ready to act, to pivot your strategy if needed, to make the most of that fortunate turn of events.
It's like that saying, fortune favors the bold.
Absolutely. But luck isn't always about positive events. Sometimes it's about how you navigate unforeseen challenges. A competitor might unexpectedly drop out of the market, or a new regulation could create an opportunity for your product. It's about being adaptable and resourceful, even when faced with setbacks.
It sounds like resilience is a key factor here. Being able to bounce back from those unexpected punches that the startup world inevitably throws your way.
Resilience is essential. You'll encounter obstacles, roadblocks, and moments where you question everything. The ability to pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and keep moving forward is what separates the successful startups from those that fade away.
It makes me think about the stories of successful entrepreneurs who faced multiple rejections before finally finding their breakthrough. It wasn't just luck. It was their persistence and belief in their vision that ultimately led to success.
Those are great examples. And while we're on the topic of stories, I think it's important to acknowledge that we often romanticize the startup journey. We hear about those overnight success stories and billion-dollar valuations, but we rarely hear about the struggles, the sleepless nights, the near failures that are part and parcel of building a company from scratch.
It's like we see the highlight reel, but not the behind-the-scenes footage of all the hard work and sacrifices that go into it.
Precisely. And that can be misleading, especially for aspiring entrepreneurs who might be drawn to the allure of quick riches and instant fame. The reality is that building a successful startup is a marathon, not a sprint. It requires grit, determination, and a willingness to embrace the long game.
It's interesting you mentioned the long game because one of the things that struck me in this course material is the discussion about timing, specifically the point about launching too early or too late. How does that tie into this idea of a marathon?
That's a great observation. It circles back to our earlier discussion about technology readiness. Launching a product too early, before the technology is mature enough or the market is ready for it, can be a recipe for disaster. But waiting too long, being overly cautious, can also be detrimental. You might miss your window of opportunity while a competitor swoops in and captures the market.
So it's about finding that sweet spot. But how do you know when the time is right? It seems like a delicate balancing act.
It is. There's no magic formula. It requires careful analysis of the market, a deep understanding of your target audience, and a realistic assessment of your own capabilities. It's also about being willing to take calculated risks, to step outside your comfort zone, and to embrace the unknown.
It sounds like intuition plays a role here as well.
Intuition definitely has its place. You
Yeah.
can't always rely solely on data and analysis. Sometimes you need to trust your gut, especially when it comes to making those big strategic decisions. But intuition shouldn't be confused with recklessness. It's about combining your gut feeling with experience, market knowledge, and a healthy dose of pragmatism.
I imagine having a strong network of mentors and advisors can be invaluable in those situations.
Absolutely. Surrounding yourself with people who have experience in your industry, who have navigated the challenges of building a startup, can provide invaluable guidance and support. They can help you assess risks, make informed decisions, and connect you with the resources you need.
It's like having a team of experienced Sherpas guiding you through the treacherous terrain of the startup world.
A very apt analogy. And while we're on the topic of teams, I want to loop back to something we discussed earlier, the importance of building a strong team.
You mentioned shared enthusiasm and clearly defined roles being essential.
Yes, those are critical. But beyond that, I think it's also about fostering a culture of innovation and creativity within your team.
So it's not just about hiring talented people, it's about creating an environment where they can thrive, where they feel empowered to take risks and share their ideas.
Exactly. You want to create a space where people feel comfortable challenging the status quo, experimenting with new approaches, and even failing as long as they learn from those failures.
It's about embracing that fail fast, learn fast mentality that we often hear about in the startup world.
Precisely. Because failure is inevitable, especially in the early stages. The key is to view failure not as a setback, but as a learning opportunity, a chance to iterate and improve.
It's about having that growth mindset, that belief that you can constantly learn and evolve.
Exactly. And that mindset needs to permeate the entire organization, from the founders to the newest hires. It's about creating a culture where learning is valued, where feedback is embraced, and where everyone is striving to be better today than they were yesterday.
I'm curious, how does a startup cultivate that kind of culture? Is it something that can be taught, or is it more about hiring people who already possess that mindset?
It's a bit of both. You can definitely hire for cultural fit, seeking out individuals who are naturally curious, adaptable, and driven to learn. But it's also about creating structures and processes that support continuous learning and development.
Such as?
Things like regular team retrospectives, where you reflect on what went well and what could be improved. Encouraging employees to attend industry conferences and workshops, providing access to online learning platforms and resources, and perhaps most importantly, leading by example.
What do you mean by leading by example?
It's about the founders and leaders demonstrating that growth mindset themselves, being open to feedback, admitting when they don't have all the answers, and constantly seeking out new knowledge and skills. When the leadership embodies that culture of learning, it trickles down throughout the entire organization.
It's about walking the walk, not just talking the talk.
Exactly, because actions speak louder than words, especially when it comes to building a strong and sustainable startup culture.
You know, we've been talking a lot about the internal workings of a startup, the team dynamics, the culture, the leadership. But what about the external factors that can impact a startup's success?
That's a great point. We can't ignore the influence of the broader ecosystem in which a startup operates. Things like industry trends, regulatory changes, economic conditions, and even global events can have a significant impact.
It's like navigating a ship through unpredictable waters. You need to be aware of the currents, the winds, the potential storms that might lie ahead.
And you need to be prepared to adjust your course as needed. Flexibility and adaptability are crucial for navigating those external forces.
So how does a startup stay ahead of the curve, so to speak?
Yeah.
How do they anticipate those changes and adapt accordingly?
It starts with staying informed, paying close attention to industry publications, attending conferences, networking with other entrepreneurs and investors. It's about keeping your finger on the pulse of what's happening in your market and beyond.
It's about being proactive, not reactive.
Exactly. And it's about being willing to pivot your strategy when necessary. The startup world is constantly evolving, and what worked yesterday might not work tomorrow. The ability to adapt, to change course, to embrace new opportunities is essential for survival and ultimately success.
We've covered so much ground today. It's clear that building a successful startup requires a multifaceted approach. It's not just about having a great idea or even securing funding. It's about understanding your market, building a strong team, creating a culture of innovation, being adaptable and resilient, and even recognizing the role of luck.
It's a complex ecosystem, and all those pieces need to work together in harmony.
I'm curious, is there one piece of advice that stands out for you? If you could give one key takeaway to our listeners, what would it be?
That's a tough one. But I think if I had to choose just one, it would be this. Never underestimate the power of perseverance. The startup journey is filled with challenges, setbacks, and moments of doubt. The ability to push through those difficult times, to maintain your belief in your vision, to never give up on your dream is what ultimately separates the successful entrepreneurs from the rest.
It's about having that unwavering determination, that grit that keeps you going, even when the odds is stacked against you.
Precisely. Because building a successful startup is not for the faint of heart. It requires passion, resilience, and an unwavering belief in yourself and your vision.
It sounds like the journey itself is just as important as the destination.
Absolutely. The lessons learned, the relationships built, the personal growth that occurs along the way, those are invaluable rewards in and of themselves.
Well said. This has been a fascinating deep dive into the world of startups.
I agree. It's a topic that never ceases to amaze me. The creativity, the innovation, the sheer determination of entrepreneurs is truly inspiring.
I can't wait to hear your final thoughts as we wrap up our deep dive in just a moment. Stay tuned, listeners. Welcome back to the deep dive. We've spent this whole episode exploring this crazy world of startups.
Yeah, it's been a journey.
You know, from that initial spark of an idea all the way to like navigating a constantly changing market.
Right. There's a lot to it.
It's a lot to take in, and
Yeah.
I'm sure our listeners are eager to hear your final thoughts on all of this.
You know, it's interesting after doing this deep dive, what really stands out to me is that while there's no guaranteed formula for startup success, there are definitely patterns we can observe.
Patterns like, what kind of pattern?
Well, think about all the successful startups we all know and have heard of.
Yeah.
What do they all have in common? Almost always.
Yeah.
It's a founder with a super deep passion for solving a problem,
Okay.
a clear understanding of their target market, and the ability to adapt and iterate based on feedback.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's not just about the idea itself,
Right.
but the execution, the team, the timing, the willingness to learn and grow.
You got it. And even with all that stuff in place,
Yeah.
there's still an element of uncertainty, like that X factor that can make or break a venture.
That's where the luck comes in, right?
Yeah, but it's
Being in the right place at the right time, recognizing an opportunity and seizing it.
Yeah, but I think it's more than just blind luck, you know? It's
Yeah.
about being prepared for those moments, having the flexibility to pivot your strategy, and the resilience to bounce back from setbacks.
So what advice would you give to someone who's maybe like on a cusp of launching their own startup?
Okay.
What key takeaways, like what should they keep in mind?
I would say first, validate your idea.
Okay.
Make sure there's a genuine market need for what they're offering. Don't fall in love with your own idea so much that you ignore feedback or market signals.
It's about being objective, even when it's your own baby, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. And then I'd also emphasize the importance of building a strong team.
Right.
Surround yourself with people who are not only talented,
Yeah.
but who share your vision and values.
People who are in it for the long haul,
Yeah,
who are passionate about the problem you're trying to solve.
that's it. And finally, I'd say be prepared for a roller coaster.
Oh, yeah.
You know, the startup journey is full of ups and downs, unexpected twists and turns.
It's not for the faint of heart.
No, it's not. But for those who are willing to embrace the challenge, to learn and grow along the way, it can be an incredibly rewarding experience.
I think that's a great note to end on.
Yeah,
You know, the startup world is a fascinating and ever-evolving landscape.
absolutely.
It's a place where innovation thrives, dreams are pursued, and the future is being shaped.
For sure. Good luck out there.
To those who are brave enough to take the leap, to embark on their own startup journey,
Yeah.
we wish you all the best.
Best of luck.
That's it for this episode of The Deep Dive.
It's been fun.
We hope you've enjoyed our exploration of the world of startups.
Until next time.
Keep diving deep.